Hey everyone, I'm working to hit 1,000 subscribers and I need your help to get there. If you enjoy this content, please hit that subscribe button right now.
Folks, buckle up, because we need to talk about the most dangerous phrase in all of professional football when healthy. 2 words, 6 letters, and 4 letters. And yet those 2 little words have haunted the San Francisco 49ers like a curse whispered by some ancient football witch standing at the edge of Levi's Stadium. Because here's the thing that should terrify every single team in the NFC. The 49ers, even shredded, even limping, even without half their all-pro roster, still won 12 games last year. Still marched into Philadelphia and mugged the defending Super Bowl champions on their own turf. Still had their head coach standing on stage as a finalist for Coach of the Year. And they did all of that while their franchise literally fell apart around them. So now the real question, the one that should keep every rival GM up at night, is this: what happens when the 49ers actually get to keep their team intact for a full season? Because if Week 1 of 2025 taught us anything, it's that a healthy Niners team doesn't just compete with the big boys, it dominates them. Let's get into it. Rewind with me to the very first Sunday of the 2025 season. San Francisco rolls into Seattle, enemy territory, the house of a Seahawks team that would go on to become Super Bowl champions by season's end. And what does this mostly healthy 49ers squad do? They go in and win it clean, 17-13. Brock Purdy was locked in. George Kittle was fully healthy and terrorizing linebackers. The defense, coordinated by Robert Saleh, a familiar face back in the building, was humming like a well-oiled machine. It was the 49ers' 4th straight win in Seattle, and for one glorious week, they looked like the best team in the entire NFC. Champagne on ice, right? Wrong, because this is the 49ers we're talking about. And the football gods apparently have a very twisted sense of humor when it comes to Santa Clara. It started with Nick Bosa. Early in the season, disaster strikes, a torn ankle, and just like that, the most dominant force on San Francisco's defensive line is done for the year. As if that wasn't enough of a gut punch, Fred Warner, the heartbeat of that defense, goes down too, breaking his ankle. Also done for the season. Then, cruelly, in the playoffs of all times, George Kittle tears his Achilles. Layer on top of that the fact that Brandon Aiyuk, San Francisco's top receiver, was reportedly checked out emotionally from the team for months before the season even kicked off, and you've got yourself a disaster movie script, not an NFL season. And yet, this battered, bruised, star-depleted roster still found a way to win 12 regular season games. They still went into Philadelphia in January and knocked off the defending champion Eagles in one of the gutsiest road performances of the entire postseason, with Juwan Jennings hauling in a go-ahead catch in the 4th quarter and the defense delivering a goal line stand to seal the deal. That's not a fluke. That's a program with a real foundation. But then, folks, Seattle happened again. Round 2. Except this time, with Kittle already out with that torn Achilles, the Seahawks did not just beat the 49ers, they obliterated them. 41-6, one of the most lopsided, embarrassing, gut-wrenching playoff losses in the entire history of this proud franchise. San Francisco managed a pitiful 173 total yards of offense, arguably the worst output Kyle Shanahan has ever presided over. To put that in perspective, the only playoff loss more brutal in 49ers history was that legendary 49-3 beatdown from the Giants all the way back in 1986. Nearly 40 years, and the Seahawks found a way to slot themselves into the history books right next to it. The 49ers boarded that flight home having proven 2 things simultaneously. That on their best day, this roster can hang with anybody in football, and on a day when they're missing half their difference makers, they don't stand a chance against a hungry, healthy contender. That has been the story in San Francisco for 3 years running now. When this team is whole, it plays like a Super Bowl roster. The only question anybody in Niner Nation wants answered heading into 2026 is simple. Is this finally the year the injury luck evens out? Now let's talk business, because the front office didn't just sit on their hands this offseason feeling sorry for themselves. John Lynch and company walked into the offseason with real, honest-to-goodness cap space. Space that was cleared through some genuinely painful decisions the year before. Fan favorites like Deebo Samuel, Chase Young, Charvarius Ward, Dre Greenlaw, and Talanoa Hufanga were all allowed to walk out the door. It was a purge, plain and simple, and it stung. But here's the payoff. All that flexibility gave Lynch real ammunition to reload, and reload he did. The headline signing of the entire offseason is wide receiver Mike Evans, inked to a 3-year deal. Now look, Evans is 32 years old, and he's coming off an injury-plagued 2025, so yes, there are legitimate questions swirling about his long-term durability. But understand something. This is a man who has cleared 1,000 receiving yards in nearly every single season of his professional career. That kind of sustained excellence doesn't just vanish overnight. And here's the smart part. The front office structured this deal intelligently, with Evans' 2026 cap number coming in under $10 million. Low risk, potentially massive reward. But the story behind how Evans ended up in the Bay is honestly the juiciest part of this whole signing. George Kittle, still rehabbing that torn Achilles, mind you, personally got on the phone and recruited Mike Evans himself before the front office had even made contact. Evans came right out and said Kittle was the biggest salesman and a major reason he chose San Francisco. Let that sink in for a second. A guy on the mend, still working his way back from a devastating injury, is out here closing free agency deals like he's part of the front office. That's the kind of organizational pull you only earn through genuine culture, genuine locker room trust, and a head coach who's proven he belongs among the league's elite. And it doesn't stop there. Evans also revealed that his decision traced all the way back to Brock Purdy's very first career start back in 2022. A game against Evans' own Buccaneers that San Francisco won convincingly. Evans said he watched Purdy that day and saw something special, something he believed he could elevate if they ever played together. Whether that's recruiting pitch or genuine belief, the result is the same. San Francisco just added a 6'5", 230-pound red zone monster who's been one of the most dependable weapons in the entire league for over a decade, and he's walking into a room that already features Ricky Pearsall and Christian Kirk. That receiving core just got dramatically scarier. On the defensive side, the front office went out and directly addressed a glaring need in the trenches, sending a third-round pick to Dallas in exchange for interior defensive lineman Osa Odigizua. He's not walking in as some flashy superstar, but he is a proven, reliable starter who fits seamlessly into Raheem Morris's defensive scheme. And that interior line desperately needed reinforcement after being stretched thin all of last season. And then, folks, we got a reunion story that nobody saw coming. Dre Greenlaw, remember him, one of the names let go in last year's roster purge, signed a 3-year deal with Denver, only to play just over 300 snaps as a Bronco before suffering yet another injury. Denver cut him loose with zero guaranteed money remaining on the table, and San Francisco, watching from the sidelines, swooped right back in and signed him to a 1-year prove-it deal, reuniting him with Fred Warner for the first time in what feels like forever. And let's be honest, when Warner and Greenlaw have shared that field healthy, this defense transforms. It plays faster. It plays meaner. It plays with an instinctive chemistry that's nearly impossible to coach up from scratch. Sure, Greenlaw's injury history is a real concern, which is exactly why it's a 1-year deal and not some franchise-altering commitment. But get this, the 49ers actually received compensatory draft picks for letting him walk away last year. And now they've brought him back for essentially pocket change after Denver's release. If Greenlaw gets anywhere close to his old form, this might go down as one of the sneaky best value signings of the entire NFL offseason. Now let's talk draft night, because Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch did something that had Niner fans either pulling their hair out or nodding along in trust, depending on who you ask. Sitting at pick 27, San Francisco traded back. Not once, twice, stockpiling extra draft capital before finally making their first selection all the way down at 33 overall. Shanahan later explained they fielded calls all day long and simply never got an offer at 27 that made staying put worth it. This is nothing new for this front office, by the way. This marks the third time in the last 5 drafts that San Francisco has skipped the first round entirely. At 33, they landed receiver Deion Stribling out of Mississippi Ole Miss. Coming off a season with over 800 yards and 6 touchdowns, a guy who also helped his team reach the college football playoff semifinals. Immediately, though, the pick got picked apart by analysts, flagged it as a reach of nearly 80 spots relative to their own big board, and plenty of experts pointed out there were still receivers on the board with cleaner grades. NFL.com's scouting report painted him as a long, striding, vertical threat who wins above the rim downfield but struggles to consistently separate underneath. In other words, a physical catch-point specialist, not a natural route technician. Kyle Shanahan clearly saw something in him that the rest of the league didn't fully buy into. And if there's one coach in football who's earned the benefit of the doubt on developing receivers, it might just be him. Still, the pressure is real. When you skip the first round, your day 2 picks have to hit. At pick 70, the Niners grabbed Romello Height, arguably the most exciting name of this entire draft class from a pure upside standpoint. He bounced around a couple of college programs before finally breaking out this past season at Texas Tech. He's an older prospect, sure, and he might be a bit of a one-trick pony, but folks, that one trick is an elite first-step burst off the edge that NFL evaluators drool over. With Nick Bosa working his way back from that gruesome ankle tear and Michael Williams still developing his own pass rush toolbox, San Francisco desperately needed a rotational menace who can wreak havoc in specific packages, and Height might be exactly that. Lynch himself put it simply on draft day: the kid plays with relentless effort and tenacity. He can drop into coverage when needed. And this defense needed bodies on the edge who can flat out win one-on-one matchups. Later in the draft, San Francisco also scooped up Gunnar Helm. Sneaky good value according to plenty of draft analysts. He's a little undersized for his position on paper, but you genuinely wouldn't know it watching the tape. The lateral movement is impressive, he creates disruption up the middle, and the production backs it all up. Right now, he projects as a rotational depth piece behind Alfred Collins and the newly acquired Osa Odighizuwa. But don't be shocked if he's pushing for a real role by year 2. So how did the whole class grade out? Depends entirely on who you ask, honestly, and that in itself is kind of hilarious. Some outlets slapped San Francisco with a D grade. Others were even harsher. Meanwhile, NFL.com came out and handed them an A-. The truth, as it usually does, probably lands somewhere in the middle. Yes, several of these picks came in well above where consensus boards had them rated. But when you actually dig into scheme fit and specific roster needs, the logic behind these selections gets a lot more defensible than the raw grades might suggest. And let's not forget, Kyle Shanahan has a well-documented history of turning reaches into legitimate NFL contributors. The receipts are mixed, but they exist. So here we are, folks, staring down the barrel of the 2026 season, and everything comes back to one single glowing neon-lit theme. The talent, when healthy, is absolutely unambiguous. Brock Purdy fully healthy again, hunting for a return to that magical 4,000-plus yard form we know he's capable of. Christian McCaffrey, one of the most versatile offensive weapons in the entire sport when he's on the field and available, which he was for most of last season, rushing for over 1,200 yards, hauling in over 100 catches, and scoring 17 total touchdowns on his way to winning Comeback Player of the Year. George Kittle rehabbing that Achilles with plenty of runway before kickoff to get back to being one of the very best tight ends alive. Nick Bosa working his way back from the torn ankle, aiming to reclaim that terrifying pass rush nuance that makes quarterbacks lose sleep. And Fred Warner, finally healthy again at linebacker, reunited with his old partner in crime, Greenlaw. Add in an all-pro fixture like Trent Williams anchoring that offensive line, and now throw a game-changer like Mike Evans into the mix, and suddenly you're looking at an offense that can put up points against literally anybody on any given Sunday. Kyle Shanahan's system, that motion-heavy, pre-snap chess match of an offense, that creative deployment of backs and tight ends, that whole machine built to manufacture easy, high-percentage throws for a quarterback who reads defenses with surgical precision, remains one of the single hardest offenses in football to game plan against. Full stop. And on defense, Raheem Morris steps in for his first full season as the Niners' defensive coordinator following Robert Saleh's one-year stint. And he inherits a group getting Greenlaw back alongside Warner, Bosa back off the edge, and a fresh new interior anchor in Osa Odigizua. Yes, the secondary still raises some eyebrows and questions, but remember, this defense was still competent, still respectable, even in 2025 while missing its two best players for the vast majority of the season. Imagine what it looks like whole. Now, nobody's pretending the road ahead is easy. This division is absolutely loaded. Seattle is the reigning Super Bowl champion, and while they did lose a few pieces this offseason, that roster is still largely intact and still dangerous. The Rams, meanwhile, are actually the betting favorites to win it all next season after adding difference makers like Myles Garrett and Trent McDuffie. But here's the thing Niner fans need to hold on to. San Francisco has already proven this very calendar year that they know exactly how to beat both of those teams. They've done it before. They can do it again. So here's the honest. No spin framing heading into 2026. San Francisco cannot control their own injury luck. Nobody can. That's football, cruel, chaotic, unpredictable, but what this front office absolutely can control is the overall quality of the roster they put on the field, and right now that roster is as good, as deep, and as talented as it's been since their Super Bowl run back in 2023. They've got the coaching. They've got the franchise quarterback. They've got a receiving core that just got a serious talent injection. And for the first time in what feels like forever, they've got a more complete defensive front heading into camp than they've had in years. The NFC West is shaping up to be a legitimate three-team gauntlet. The Rams as favorites, the Seahawks as defending champs, and the 49ers as the team that's already beaten both of them when healthy. Under Kyle Shanahan, this franchise has won divisions. They've played in NFC championship games. They've been to 2 Super Bowls. He's been knocking on that door for a long, long time, and the difference heading into 2026 is that, for the first time in years, San Francisco might actually get to walk through it with their full roster intact. So there it is, faithful, the good, the brutal, and the genuinely exciting truth about where this franchise stands heading into 2026. The talent is undeniable. The additions are smart. The only villain left in this story is health itself. If the injury bug finally leaves this team alone, watch out NFC, because this might be the year the curse breaks for good. What do you think, Niner faithful? Is 2026 finally the year we get a fully healthy 49ers team all season long? Drop your predictions down in the comments. Let me know if you're buying the hype on Mike Evans. And don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss a single breakdown right here on 49ers Focus. Until next time, faithful, stay loud.